All right, so I'm back here, and when we left off, we had a ship that moves and it kind of shoots. It just goes pew pew. But now I'd like to have some actual projectiles come out of the nose of the rocket of our ship. So I'm going to move, get out of the way of the code here, and let's take a look at what we need to do. So the first thing is let's go ahead and look at our folder, and in the assets folder, in the images, I've got two laser images. And in my game, I'm going to let the blue laser be the one the player shoots, and I'll let the red laser be the one the enemy shoots. So I need to load the image. And so I'm going to just copy that line, and we'll call it laser image. And the file is called laserblue.png. All right, so now we got the image loaded. Let me run it. And I just like to, nothing changed here. I just like to run it because I made a mistake in the file path and my program will crash and there'll be an error and I can go fix it now before I start typing a bunch of other code. Okay. The next thing we need to do is think about what the laser class would be like. And a laser is still, it's still going to be a sprite because it's just an image that moves on the screen and gets drawn. So I'm just going to copy this first chunk of the ship all the way through the initializer and paste it down here, and we'll rename it laser. And I think everything else is pretty good. It's got lasers have an image, they have an X and a Y, just like a ship would. I'm going to go ahead and make them go a little bit faster. I'll make them go 7 instead of 5. And hopefully it's obvious that, once your game actually works and you start testing it for playability, these are the kinds of numbers that you go in there and, you change them until the game feels right. Okay. Now we're going to go into the setup section. And this is a little bit different because when the game starts, we don't want to put any lasers into the game. We just need to be ready for lasers to join the game because the ship is actually going to be the one adding lasers to the game when its shoot function is called. So I am just going to, so we still need a sprite group. And so I'm going to make my lasers group, lasers equals, and Pygame. And this time I'm saying group rather than group single, because I want this to be able to hold maybe dozens of lasers at a time, whereas the player, right, there's never going to be more than one ship in the game. So I made this a group single because it can hold one thing, and this can hold multiple things. All right, so now how do we put lasers in the game? Let's go back up to our shoot function. And I'm going to go ahead and leave the pew here. All right, I think this is a good place. Like when I'm ready to do sound effects, I'll actually take this line out and put a line there that plays a sound instead. Okay, but that'll come later. And what I need to do is think about where do I want the laser to appear. And I want it to appear come right out of the nose of my ship. So I'm gonna make an X variable, which is going to be self.rect.center X. And this will be the X coordinate, it splits me down the middle vertically here. And I want it to feel like the laser's kind of coming out of the top of the ship. So I'm going to grab the coordinate of the top of my nose right there. And so I'm going to take this laser image and I'm going to center it. When I put it in the game, I want to center it right on the nose of the ship there. So it'll be half underneath the ship and half out of the ship. And hopefully that gives me kind of the illusion it's coming out of the ship when I play the game. And if that doesn't work perfectly, we can always fine tune the numbers a little bit. Right. And so that's where we want the laser to go. So now we need to make a laser object. Laser singular equals, and the initializer for a laser requires an X and a Y and an image. So I'm going to say laser And now we're starting to have a lot of similar variable names in here, so be very careful with the case of things. Capital letter means an object. Lowercase letter means it's a variable that maybe holds an instance of an object. So I'm going to say x, comma y, comma, and I forgot. Okay, so I called it laser image. Okay, and then we have to put the lasers into this group. So I'm going to say lasers dot add laser. All right, so now, right, again, similar variable names, so things are starting to get a little bit complicated here. So let's do, and let's see what happens. Okay, and so I'm not getting any errors, but notice nothing's getting drawn yet. And so we got to go fix that. And so let's go down to the drawing section of the game loop. Input logic, here's the drawing code. And everything in the drawing code is just going to be a group. And then where you want to draw it. So what I do is I call the draw function on the lasers group. And when you call the draw function on a group, all right, this is a built-in Pygame function draw that goes on sprite groups. What it does is it loops through every single individual item in the group, and it goes and draws their image wherever their rectangle coordinates are located. All right, so that's what the draw function is doing. It's drawing the image for every item in the group. So it makes it a little bit easier. We don't have to write laser1.draw, laser2.draw, or something like that. All right, so let's run this, and hopefully now we get some lasers on the screen. And we do. Okay. And you can see the positioning here. Right, so laser, hopefully this looks kind of like the lasers coming out of the ship because it starts partway in and partway out. One thing I don't like about this, I think it looks kind of weird because it's on top of the ship, and I'd like it to come out of the ship. So we can fix that simply by changing the order of our drawing code. And remember, Pygame draws back to front. So as long as I draw the laser before the player, now the lasers will appear under the ship when I draw them. So I think that looks a little bit better. All right, so now we need them to move. And so Pygame has another built-in function for sprites that we can define. And it's called update. An update is just the instructions that you want this class to do to repeat every iteration of the game loop. So in this case, I just want the laser to move up. And so I'm just going to say self.rect.y and minus equals self.speed. And remember, it's a minus equals because the coordinate plane in Pygame is inverted. So subtracting from the y coordinate will actually make something go up. And we go down here to the logic section. And this is very similar to the way the drawing works, is you do a group.update, and what it does is it goes through every single individual item in the group, and it calls its update function. So this is this line means one call to update will in turn call the update for every single laser in the group, no matter how many there are. So let's watch and see for shooting. And it seems to work. I'm shooting a bunch of lasers here, and we still have, we have another problem that we don't see yet, but if the game goes on for a while, we will notice that the game is going to start to get laggy. And, that's because eventually as we put hundreds or we play the game for a while and we get hundreds or thousands of lasers into the game, we're just, the computer is doing a lot of work trying to keep up with the coordinates of all of them and draw all of them and move them all. So I'm going to do one more thing in our update, and that is we just want to take the laser out of the game when it goes off the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if self.rect.bottom is less than 0. So this will be the y coordinate of the bottom of the rectangle. If it's less than 0, means it's like, it would be just off the screen at this point. Then I'm going to say self.kill. And so with the kill function, when you apply the kill function to a sprite, what it does is it removes it from any sprite groups that it might be contained in, and therefore the Pygame will never try to draw it again, and it will never try to update it again. So run it just to make sure, and nothing's going to look different, but just trust me on this. What's going on right now, each time a laser goes off the screen, it's pulled out of the memory of the game. So we're keeping memory and processing power available for other features that we may add to our game later. All right, so that is it for shooting, and maybe the next video we'll look at putting some enemies up here and seeing what we can do with them.